Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're in our seventh cycle of 1990, talking about a movie, and this episode we're talking about Predator 2. So, obviously, the follow up to the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, the original Predator from the mid 80s, like 87, I want to say. Could have been 86. Not sure exactly the year on that. But yeah, the original Predator is a classic. They did Predator 2, not quite as good as the original, but still a lot of fun. I didn't see, obviously, the first Predator movie in the theaters or this one, and the only one of them that I've seen of the original two in theaters was a couple years ago. Local theater did a late night showing of the original Predator, and that was a lot of fun. But I didn't initially see these in theaters. I remember the first time I ever saw clips of the Predator or parts of it. I knew it existed because of the NES game. I remember seeing articles about the NES game in like Nintendo Power or something. But I remember it was summer of 1991, and I was with this summer camp, and we would just do various activities during the day. It wasn't a sleepaway camp or anything like that. It was just a day camp. And one day we went bowling. So we were at the bowling alley, and they had Predator 2 playing at this bowling alley. And I think I remember seeing clips of it. Like the first was when the Predator first removes its mask and you see its actual face. The Predator obviously is like pretty violent, and I think like one of the counselors actually asked the people at the bar at the bowling alley to maybe change the channel because of a bunch of like kids were at the bowling alley. I didn't really care. I wanted to see it. So I eventually then saw it on HBO or something, or maybe my friend had it on VHS. I don't recall. But shortly after that, a few months later, I think it was like November of, because I remember watching it. I think it was like at the very tail end of like Thanksgiving break for that year, seeing it on HBO. So or Predator 2, I should say. So watched that on HBO. Had a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of great memorable scenes and lines from this movie. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not quite as good as the original, but and some of it is absolutely just over the top and silly. There's like certain things where like there's like part where like one guy is just like wildly shooting a machine gun, and the Predator is invisible, but his spear, I think it's called a comb stick, technically, is not invisible, and the guy literally basically just almost like walks into it. Like it's maybe like a few feet away from him, and he like walks to it, and the Predator just barely moves the thing forward and like stabs the guy. It's just incredibly silly in certain scenes. But it's still a lot of fun. I ended up picking it up on Amazon. I think it was like the digital version was like $5, and I was just like, cool, like it's a lot of fun. I'll buy that on Prime. So I bought the digital version, and that's where I watched it. I have my notes here. We're gonna get through these notes, and then we will get to the plot and all that as well. So let me just open my notebook up here. All right, so Predator 2, first released November 21st, 1990. And it was basically like roughly a year later where I saw it on HBO. A great cast overall. You have Danny Glover, you have Gary Busey is also in this, and then you also have Bill Paxton. He plays one of the other like police officers or like detectives or whatever his role was. Funny thing with Bill Paxton, or cool little fact about Bill Paxton, is as far as I know, he is the only actor or actress to be killed on screen by a Terminator, an Alien, and a Predator. So in the original Terminator film, he's one of the three, I think it's three of them, the three punks that are outside the Griffith Observatory when the Terminator asks him for clothes. And he's like, oh, no clean clothes, laundry day. That's Bill Paxton. And then obviously, classically, probably one of his most well-known roles is that of Hudson in Alien. So he gets basically dragged underneath. I think they come out from under the ground and they just pull him down and kill him. And then gets killed by a predator in this movie on the subway. So yeah, he's been in one of each of these movies and has been killed in each character he's played in one of these movies. He's been killed in, and that is kind of like a feat that no other actor or actress has done. One great scene I really love. I always remember this is the opening like gang war between the police and like one of the drug gangs. There's two warring drug gangs in the movie. I forget, like one of them are the Jamaicans, and then there's another one. I forget what they were called. But yeah, the gang members run inside the building. They start armoring, like getting more weapons, and one of them grabs a vial or like a little like urn of like cocaine and like does it, and then it's like El Scorpio is ready. That's one of the more iconic lines in the movie. And then right after that, the Predator basically like jumps in and ambushes them and kills everyone. But that's a great line in the movie. The director of this was Stephen Hopkins, and apparently he envisioned Patrick Swayze in the lead role. I also think they tried to get Schwarzenegger back, but Schwarzenegger declined due to I don't think they were willing to pay him what he wanted. So Schwarzenegger declined, and then they got Danny Glover in the lead role instead. Apparently, they were also in talks to bring Steven Seagal into the picture, and he wanted. I think Steven Seagal had like wanted to do something like I don't want to call it no, so it was creative control, but said he wanted his character to be like a CIA operative that was also like a martial artist, and they decided against that because the director basically went on and said they kind of just wanted like an everyday cop or character. Like in the first movie, it's basically Schwarzenegger's Dutch is the character, is like basically a special forces operative. And then with this one, they kind of wanted to make it be something a little bit more, maybe like relatable, like a regular, just average Joe police officer. So they went with Danny Glover. Joel Silver produced this, and I kind of forgot for a second that Gary Busey was in this because I haven't seen this in a long time. But it's kind of interesting because both Danny Glover and Gary Busey were in the original Lethal Weapon from a few years prior to this. I guess also Steve Kahn is in this, or Conan, how it's pronounced. He was also apparently in Lethal Weapon, and he plays one of the other police officers in this movie. I think his character is not in the movie all that much. But just kind of interesting because Joel Silver was a producer of this, and I believe the producer of Lethal Weapon, because I think it was Donner was a director. I'm not really sure. Another thing is Morton Downey Jr. is in this, and he plays basically this kind of sleazy media, does like these like basically over sensationalized like news videos about the gang wars and stuff like that. So he's in this. Apparently, it was originally rated NC-17 until the studio did a bunch of cuts to make it get it an R rating. Some cool stuff shows up for the first time in this movie. I believe I think it's called the Smart Disc. Basically, like the thing that looks like a circular saw blade. I think makes its first appearance in this movie. And I remember using that weapon a lot in the Alien vs Predator 2 video game from like 2001. That weapon in the game was incredibly overpowered. Like you can lock on to people like halfway across the level and just chuck it and basically just get like instant kills with it. But yeah, that weapon I believe makes its first appearance in this movie. Got a quote here from Danny Glover about this movie. Let me just bring it up here. So Danny Glover was obviously this is the Danny Glover quote about making this movie is this quote: "I have two films I've done that I feel that I was bigger than life in which I felt I could control the space. Silverado for me, and Predator 2. In Predator 2, it was like, who's the baddest cat in your space? And the baddest cat says, I'm going to challenge you, mano y mano. I was the baddest guy in his space. What happens? I kill him, and then the others come around, and I'm like, all right, who's next? I was about 42, 43, in the best shape of my life, best shape I've been in. I was running on the beach, had my training, I was lifting weights, a lot more than I am now. I was really feeling it in that movie." So I don't know when that quote was actually happened, but just Danny Glover talking about the experience of making the movie, and then let's see here, where did I drop the director's name here? Joe Silver was Hopkins. Stephen Hopkins was quoted as saying, "quote kind of in like this movie has kind of picked up a cult status. It's not nearly as good as the original, but I think a lot of people have had more like fans actually really like it." So the director was quoted as saying, quote, "It's so over the top, I just sort of went for it and made the biggest, boldest, loudest movie I could make. I was only 29 years old. I was like a rampant child running around in Los Angeles, blowing the shit out of everything and making things as bloody as possible." And then another quote relating to the film is the lowest grossing of any of the Predator movies. I think it had like a $30 million budget and made like 57 million or something. So another quote from the director was, "quote It had a big initial opening weekend, if I remember correctly, but I think many people were disappointed that Arnold wasn't in it. A lot of people like the film, and some prefer it to the original, just because it's a city and more contemporary. So yeah, like so it didn't make as much money as the original, um, but also the setting does add to the movie because like you have kind of in the original Predator, you only really have one other encounter like outside of them initially meeting to go into the jungle, and that's like with whatever like armed band of like like soldiers that they encounter. It's where Dutch throws a knife at the guy and it's like stick around. It's that encounter, and then the rest of it is just the team getting picked off by the predator. In this movie, you have a lot more moving parts. You have the entire police unit, which is Danny Glover's group. You have this federal group, which is run by Gary Busey. You have the predator running around, like doing its kills and all that, and then you have this gang warfare element as well. So there's definitely a lot going on, probably more so than the original, but that might be why it doesn't work as well because there's so much stuff going on. It kind of everything gets kind of lost. Sorry, excuse me. But I still had a lot of fun watching it. All right, now we're going to move into our plot here. So the plot is basically Predator has come to Los Angeles. The way Gary Busey describes it is basically he's on safari, going after like whatever kind of trophy kills he can get. He kills like I think there's a guy called King Willie. He kills that guy. And then you do. This is the first movie I think that actually established that Alien and Predator I think are a shared universe because you do see toward the end of the film you do see the alien xenomorph skull in the Predator ship. But anyway, Predator is in Los Angeles, causing all kinds of chaos. The police are in the middle of a gang warfare between one gang and the Jamaican gang. Beginning of the movie is just basically a huge shootout between the police and this gang. Police are getting shot, gang members are getting shot. And then Danny Glover's character pulls up and basically kind of goes to get to orders. They're like, hey, we've been told to wait. The feds are telling us to wait. And he basically just makes the executive decision. They're like, nah, we're going in. And does that great scene where he opens a bag of guns in his car. He's like, too small, too small. Then he grabs like a shotgun that's like taped or like it's like on the inside of the hood. But they go into there's a huge shootout, great like sequence, and then it cuts away from the action, and the gang members go into their hideout. They're reloading. They're getting more weapons. That's when the guy does the El Scorpio is ready bit, which is great. And then the Predator breaks in through the skylight, and you don't see it's all done off screen, but the Predator just goes in there and basically massacres like everyone. When Danny Glover or I think like Harrigan is his character's name, when his team go in, they notice that all the gang members have been like just like massacred. On the roof, though, you see Scorpio is up there with Danny Glover's character, and Danny Glover's got him at gunpoint. He's like, hey, drop the guns, drop the guns. And you then see the Predator still cloaked. They do the thing where you can kind of like see its outline, and Scorpio starts to shoot at it, and Danny Glover basically just like and then Scorpio falls off the building and dies, and then the feds are all upset that Danny Glover's character went in there when he wasn't supposed to, and all of that. So it kind of becomes like almost like a police procedural in that way, where it's like, hey, you should have waited for backup and all that other stuff. Back at the station, we see Bill Paxton's character show up. He's been transferred to Danny Glover's apartment, and he Danny Glover brings him to the office. He's like, "Hey, these are my rules for being in this squad." And he's like, "If you asked to be here," he's like, "Nobody like asks to be transferred here. This is not like a walk in the park or anything like that." So he gets transferred, and then there's this scene where it's one of the drug lords is having he's like in his like apartment, and the Jamaican gang goes in there, and they start doing this like voodoo ritual to him. They like tie him up, and the guy's like, "Hey, you did a really good job of scaring me. Let's just like call it even, right?" And they got him tied up, and one of these guys is like painting on him with blood, and then I just started cracking up at this scene because the guy's like, he's like voodoo magic man or something like that. That's what he says. And then he's like, you know what they say? They say shit happens, and that's an important thing for later because the predator is in there as well, and the predator like kills most of the people in that room. And it's like another massacre by the predator. This is where the guy was shooting and basically literally just walks right into the spear. There's another part where the one guy is just like looking like he's dancing. He's kind of just like shooting the gun, like not really like probably didn't have very good direction, but it was kind of funny. Predator also like nets a guy up with like he's got like the nets that like they pin into the wall and then they're like wire and they'll like cut into you. I remember seeing those nets in the Batman versus Predator comic as well. That was a cool little miniseries from like back around this time period. Maybe it was 91, 92. But yeah, Batman versus Predator was fun as well. But this whole gang basically gets massacred. The police show up. Danny Glover and his partner Danny Boy, as he's called, and Danny Boy notices in like I think it's like a vent. You see one of the predators like hooks. It's like a spearhead or something. The feds are like, hey, like you guys shouldn't be here. Like you guys should like you're doing like going against what we're doing, telling you to do. Like get out of here. And Danny Glover's character talks to Danny Boy. And he's like, hey, like I'll meet you back here at like 1 in the morning, and we'll sneak back in and grab stuff. So Danny Boy goes in there and he gets the spearhead eventually later, and he ends up getting killed by the predator. So he gets killed by the predator. I remember they bring the spearhead to like a forensics person, and they put it in a like a metal scanner, and it doesn't scan as any element on the periodic table. So we're like, hey, what is this? It's not made of any like known element. Gary Busey's character is also around. He's constantly telling Danny Glover's character, he's like, hey, stay out of this, like stay in your lane, like don't do this. And then he's like, well, now it's personal because like whatever this thing is killed my partner. So Danny Glover's character makes it a meeting with King Willie, who is like the head of the Jamaican gang, I guess. It's weird because he's like just in an alley with like no bodyguards or anything. I'm like, you think he would have like a hideout or something? But he's telling him, he's like, oh, like voodoo magic, like stuff's happening, bad stuff's gonna happen. And then Danny Glover's character leaves. Predator shows up and kills King Willie, cuts his head off, and then does the thing where like basically like gets all the skin off of it, polishes it up, puts it on his trophy wall. So now he's got that skull. There is after that there is an assault on the subway. The Predator's on the subway now, and this is where Bill Paxton's character gets killed because he's like people are trying to get off the subway, and another character is another police member, a female officer. I forget her character's name, but the Predator spares her because it somehow realizes that she's pregnant, so it doesn't kill her. But Bill Paxton, I think, is like trying to swing at it and gets killed. Later on, you see it like rip Bill Paxton's like spine out and then runs off to his hideout with the skull. Danny Glover is trying to chase after the Predator, so they chase after it, and he's chasing it down. But then I think Stephen Baldwin is one of the character in like one of the characters in this movie. He works with Gary Busey's character, and they crash into Danny Glover's car, and they basically bring him into this like a command center, and they're like, "Hey, this is what's happening." They're like 10 years ago, like this something like this was in the South American jungle, and it's like detonated something that blew up the equivalent of like 300 city blocks. So kind of mirroring part of Alien, or Aliens, I should say, is Gary Busey's team is basically trying to capture the Predator so they can like study it or maybe like reverse engineer its weapons or something like that. So they basically lure it to a what is it a slaughterhouse essentially. So basically they say like yeah like we've been tracking the Predator for a while. What it does it goes out, does this thing, and every few days it comes back here to feed. So they basically are luring the Predator there with like these like cattle carcasses and what have you. And they basically are like, well, we only think he can see in infrared, so we're going to go in there with these suits on that will block all of our heat signatures so the Predator can't see us, and then we will like gas it. We're going to like cryogenically freeze it and like capture it. Obviously this goes completely sideways, so they all go in there. They see on a map in the command center the Predator moving around, but then you see the Predator like opens up its wrist thing and it like types something in or hits a button, and you see its vision modes change. So now it can see them. So and those vision modes are like also in the Alien versus Predator video games as well. So basically, like this entire team basically get slaughtered. Danny Glover's character goes in. He loads up with a shotgun. I think it's like a grenade launcher and a bunch of other stuff, and he manages to actually take the predator down, at least temporarily. He shoots it a bunch of times, and then rips its mask off, and he does says the line where it's like "You're one ugly," and then it's like the predator like chokes him. And then Gary Busey's character was also like not killed right away, but he's like, hey, like get out of here. This is between him and I. And then this is when we see the smart disc. You see the predator open it, it like expands, and he chucks it. It cuts through a bunch of carcasses, and then you just see it. I'm presumably like slicing off Gary Busey's head as well. So now he's dead, and then they're not fighting on a rooftop, and they're like hanging from the roof, and like the predator is getting ready to looks like detonate the bomb thing it did in the first movie, and the predator does the line where it can mimic like voices that it hears. So it's like so it says shit happens, and then Danny Glover grabs a smart disc and like swings it across and cuts the predator's hand off, and the predator falls and like crashes into an apartment bathroom. I should say there's a scene early, like another scene where Danny Glover's character goes to the graveyard to talk to like the gravestone of Danny Boy, and there is a kid at the graveyard with a toy machine gun, and you see the predator like scan him, and I guess like determines that the kid's not a threat, but the kid's like want some candy. It's like so like the predator can like basically like I think like ascertain, be like, okay, this thing is a worthy opponent, or this is just a kid, so I'm not gonna deal with that. But the predator basically falls into this apartment bathroom. It's a pretty funny scene because the predator's in there just wrecking the bathroom. You see it crashes through the wall, and then it starts punching the wall and grabbing like a tile and ceramic and crushing it and putting it into the sink. And then it pulls out its healing kit, and it's got like this like crucible, I guess you want to call it. It's like a crucible. He puts all the stuff in there, turns it on, and like has like flames in it. Drops all the ceramic crumbles in there, and then dumps in some blue liquid, and it all melts down. Then he uses like a scoop, and it's like starts scooping it onto his wounds, and he's just like screaming the entire time. He's like, "Rah!" And it's funny because you see this lady walk out of the bedroom, and she's like, "Hey," like, and you hear Jeopardy in the background. He's like, "Hey, somebody's in the bathroom," and he's just like making a bunch of noise. So he's doing all this healing, and then you see the final thing he does. He takes some kind of weird syringe and injects himself with it, and just starts screaming like crazy, and like breaks through the wall or the door, and then runs down the hall and breaks out through that wall as well. Danny Glover's character then comes through the bathroom, and he's like, "Don't worry, I'm a cop." And the lady is like, I don't think he cares." So he chases the predator down and like goes down this elevator shaft, which essentially leads to the predator's ship. And this is where you see all of this predator's like skull collection. I think you see King Willie's skull there. You might see the skull of Bill Paxton's character, but then there is all these other weird skulls, including the Xenomorph skull from the Alien franchise. Um, they have their final fight. The and they're swinging at each other, and they're hitting each other, and then Danny Glover's character has the smartness still, and he basically stabs the predator like in like the torso with it, and kind of twists it, and the predator then eventually dies. After that, a whole bunch of other predators like teleport in, and Danny Glover drops his character drops the disc, and he's like, "All right, who's next?" And the predators are mostly just there to collect their fallen comrades, so they basically pick them up and leave. And then kind of as like I think like a game recognized game kind of situation, and one of the predators throws a flintlock pistol to Danny Glover's character from like, and the pistol's from like the 1700s, and he's like, "Take it," and he like grabs it, and then the ship I think takes off and explode, and then takes off and it blows up the whole thing that it was in. So you see him just walking out of this bunch of rubble toward the end of the movie, and then a bunch of other police cars and things like that show up. Stephen Baldwin's character makes another appearance, and he's like, "Oh, we almost had it," and he's like, and since now Danny Glover's character knows that these things, there's like a ton of these things, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I think you get a chance like later on," and that's kind of where the movie ends. So, like I said earlier, not anywhere near as good as the original, but still a good time. So I would recommend checking it out. Um, pretty fun movie overall. Like a lot of like great characters or actors, like from Danny Glover to Bill Paxton, Gary Busey, obviously, and so on. So yeah, definitely a fun time. Um, And that is going to do it for this video. We'll be back in a few days covering a 1990 video game before jumping into 1991 and the rest of the decade. So thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.